In the picturesque hills and vineyards of Florence, Italy, a shadow loomed in the form of a serial killer who targeted couples in secluded areas. Known as the Monster of Florence, this elusive predator claimed the lives of at least 16 people between 1968 and 1985, leaving a trail of terror and unanswered questions. Today, on the latest stories from Dark Diaries, we'll explore the chilling case of the Monster of Florence, delving into the brutal murders, the convoluted investigation, and the enduring mystery surrounding Italy's most infamous unsolved case. Florence, a city renowned for its art, culture, and romance, was an unlikely backdrop for such horrific crimes. But between the late 1960s and mid-1980s, this idyllic region became the hunting ground for a cold-blooded killer who preyed on young couples seeking privacy. The Monster of Florence primarily targeted lovers parked in cars or secluded areas. The victims were always a man and a woman, brutally murdered with a .22 caliber Beretta handgun. The killer often mutilated the female victims, adding a macabre signature to the crimes. The first known double murder occurred in 1968 when Antonio Lobianco and Barbara Locci were shot in their car. This initial killing would later be connected to the monster's spree, but it took years for investigators to establish a pattern. The murders escalated in the 1970s and early 1980s, with the killer striking with chilling precision and leaving little evidence behind. The Monster of Florence's method was consistent and deeply disturbing. Couples were ambushed in their cars, shot multiple times with a .22 caliber weapon, and mutilated post-mortem. The mutilations, particularly to the female victims, suggested a ritualistic element, though the motive behind these acts remains unknown. In 1974, Pasquale Gentilcore and Stefania Pettini were found murdered in a car. Stefania's body was brutally mutilated, marking the first known instance of this grisly pattern. By the 1980s, the killer's actions became even more calculated. In 1981, Susanna Cambi and Stefano Baldi were murdered, with Susanna's body showing signs of the killer's signature post-mortem mutilation. The final confirmed murders occurred in 1985 with the deaths of Nadine Morio and Jean-Michel Cravechvili. Despite intensive efforts by law enforcement, the Monster of Florence eluded capture. The Italian police were immediately overwhelmed by the brutality and complexity of the case. As the murders continued, pressure mounted to catch the killer, leading to one of the longest and most controversial investigations in Italian history. The .22 caliber Beretta became a crucial piece of evidence. Ballistics tests confirmed that the same weapon was used in all the murders, linking the cases. Various items left at the crime scenes, including cigarette butts and clothing fragments, were collected, but forensic technology at the time limited their usefulness. Pietro Pacciani, a farmer with a violent history, became the prime suspect in the early 1990s. Pacciani was convicted but later acquitted due to insufficient evidence, leaving the case unresolved. Investigators also explored the possibility of accomplices, dubbing them the compagni di merenda, or snack companions. However, these theories were riddled with inconsistencies and failed to produce definitive results. The investigation was plagued by errors, including leaks to the press, conflicting reports, and interference from political and religious groups. The lack of DNA evidence and advanced forensic techniques further hampered efforts. One prevalent theory is that the Monster of Florence was a single individual with a deep-seated psychological compulsion. The precision and ritualistic nature of the murders suggest a highly organized offender. Another theory posits that the murders were part of a satanic ritual carried out by a group of individuals. This theory gained traction due to the mutilations and the apparent targeting of young couples, which some believed had symbolic significance. Critics of the investigation argue that Pietro Pacciani and the so-called accomplices were scapegoats, and the real killer, or killers, remains unidentified. This theory is supported by inconsistencies in the evidence and the lack of a definitive conviction. Despite occasional claims of breakthroughs, the case remains unsolved. Advances in DNA technology offer hope, but with decades having passed, critical evidence may no longer be viable. Over the years, Italian authorities have periodically reopened the case, revisiting old evidence and exploring new leads. In 2021, a group of independent investigators claimed to have uncovered potential links to other crimes, though these findings remain unverified. The Monster of Florence has inspired books, documentaries, and even a Hollywood film. The case's blend of mystery, horror, and cultural intrigue ensures its place in the public imagination. The murders cast a long shadow over Florence, shattering the city's idyllic image and instilling fear in its residents. The case also highlighted flaws in Italy's justice system, prompting calls for reform. The Monster of Florence has become a symbol of unresolved tragedy, reflecting humanity's struggle to comprehend and confront evil. The case continues to be a focal point for discussions about crime, justice, and societal vulnerabilities. The Monster of Florence's reign of terror remains one of Italy's darkest chapters. Despite decades of investigation, the identity of the killer or killers remains a mystery, leaving behind a legacy of fear and unanswered questions. What are your theories about the Monster of Florence? Was it a lone killer, a group, or something even more sinister? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more stories from Dark Diaries. Join us next time as we delve into another haunting case. The disappearance of Natalie Holloway, a story of heartbreak and unanswered questions set against the backdrop of Aruba's sunny shores. Don't miss it.